Hello and welcome to the DBN wrap-up show for the Virtual World Diplomacy Classic. I am Brandon Fogel, and I am joined here today by Bill Hackenbracht, the primary organizer of the Virtual World Diplomacy Classic. Bill, welcome to the wrap-up show.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. I wasn't the only organizer. I was joined by Peter McNamara out of Australia, Christopher Brand out of Canada, as well as Marcus Dilstra and Gary Sturley from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit about how this tournament was organized? Because there were a lot of people involved, which I gather was necessary because it was such a complex endeavor.
Well, for a couple of reasons, Brandon. I mean, it was such a large endeavor with games happening around the clock for 48 hours. It was really beyond the ability of one person to really run the show behind the scenes for everything. Though I got to hand it to Marcus. He basically did. Marcus really served as our primary tournament director. He was the man behind the scenes who was able to make sure all the boards got set up properly in case any of the other co-organizers had issues, as well as he was there at the start of every single round. I mean, he got some sleep, but he was still there. He made sure all the games made it to 1902 without issue. And that was really nice because it freed up the other organizers to be able to compete. Because one of the problems with inviting 4 to 5 of the top diplomacy players in the world to help you run a big world tournament that's a big ask to ask Peter McNamara or Chris Brand to sit. Why don't you sit this one out, guys?
Yeah, it's the thing about being organizers is that the people who want to run these tournaments are also the people who really like to play and usually happen to be good at it. Especially with a tournament like this, which was the biggest tournament of the year, the biggest tournament of the pandemic era, one of the biggest tournaments that's happened on the face-to-face scene in like the last decade, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Since 2006, the World Diplomacy Championships in Berlin, which were won by one of the fellows we're about to mention in the next few slides.
So a biggest in terms of number of participants, correct? But not in terms of number of boards. Some of my Chicago compatriots were quick to point out that Chicago had more boards, I believe, but fewer participants.
Well, there's one thing I've learned about people from Chicago is they're quick to point out how their city is better than any other.
Yeah, and also how opening to Armenia is not necessarily anti-Russian. There was a bit of chatter online about TDs playing in the tournament because that is not standard in North America, even though, as far as I understand it, it does happen regularly in Europe and in the Asia Pacific zones. North American tournaments, typically you get 25 to 35 people, and you've got one person who's largely responsible for doing all of the organizing at those in-person face-to-face tournaments. And so they're usually fully occupied, but also people wonder whether there's a competitive advantage that a tournament director might gain from having some behind the scenes responsibility, but then also playing. So I just want to give you a chance to address that. Were there any competitive advantages that any of the organizers got from being an organizer?
So, Brandon, I'm so glad you asked that question. One of the ways we avoided that kind of conflict of interest was by using automation for as many things as possible. We utilized. Now, I know Chris Brand created Diplomacy TV, but it's still a computer. We used Diplomacy TV to seed the boards and to divvy up the round. Am I still?
No, you're fine. And it's worth saying that, if Chris Brand tried to get any competitive advantage from Diplomacy TV, it didn't work. Please go.
No, this is the second tournament in a row it hasn't worked out for him. The nice thing about using a program like Backstabber is it removes the need of a tournament director to figure out if Burgundy's moving to Marseille or Munich. There's no handwriting issues to figure out, and there's no did he get his orders in the box in time. It removes a lot of those judgment decisions that a tournament director usually has to make during an event. really the only thing the tournament directors did was ensure that the boards were moving along, and take any of the draw votes that happened.
Yeah, with these virtual face-to-face events, the organizing tasks are really logistic rather than judgmental. So, well, in any case, the event went off swimmingly. You had 39 boards played with about 100 people. Like I said, by far the biggest event that we had this year by almost a factor of 2 in terms of the number of boards. And it culminated in a top board on Sunday,
Yes.
of which you were one of the participants. Let's have a look at how the top 7 shook out. Before I show this, it's worth pointing out this wasn't something we reported too much on the broadcast, but people's places could change as a result of their top board performance. So can you explain a little bit about how that worked?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for bringing it up. That explains some of the behavior that happened at the end of the game, actually. So what the top board score was multiplied by a factor of 1.5 or 150%, and then added to a player's overall 3-board score for qualifying. And so, for example, Nicola and I busted out the spreadsheets and we did the math, and we figured out that either I had to have like 6 centers and Farron only have 1, or Farron be eliminated and I could go all the way down to 3 centers, and I would still be able to get a 3rd place score by 2.5 points. So, I mean, that's unfortunately sometimes that's the deal you have to cut in order to get the best result for yourself.
So Farron is a brand new player on the tour, and also active duty military, as are you. And the two of you have quickly developed a little rivalry. Am I wrong about that?
Hey, I could not have a better rivalry with a better person. She is a fantastic diplomacy player, and I can't wait until the face-to-face circuit starts back up again after COVID. And I'm looking forward to watching her career, because she is a hell of a player.
Also, so you can stab her in person. Yeah, Farron Jane has played in 2 tournaments in her life and has made the top board in both of them. Hasn't won one yet, so still part of the mountain left to climb, Farron. But we look forward to seeing how that works out. And you're in the running for the DBNI, so hopefully we'll get to see you in that one. All right, let's move on to some results. All right, the top 7 shook out like this. Morgante Pell won that top board. He actually tied with Nicolas Sahuguet for the most centers on the board at 14, but had the tiebreaker by virtue of choosing later in the selection order. The rest of the players were scored according to the World Classic scoring system, as you mentioned, times 150%. That meant that Nicolas Sahuguet ended up in 2nd place, and you, Mr. Bill Hackenbracht, finished in 3rd, just like a 1.5 ahead of Farron Jane in 4th. And 5th was newcomer Maxime Popov, and also your nemesis in the top board. Maxim has won a best country, I think, in every tournament that he's entered. If not, it might have missed one, I think. But every time I update these slides, I'm always entering his name on the best. I'm just moving his name on the best country slide. In 6th place was Matthew Krill, a face-to-face player who's starting to make a little bit of waves here on the virtual face-to-face scene. And in 7th place was Peter McNamara, one of your fellow organizers and a well-known shark on the board. So you were on the top board. You got to see how some of this shook out. You just gave us a little bit of inside dish. I'm going to replay the interview with Morgante at the end of this wrap-up show that we recorded on Sunday night. Just from a tournament organizer perspective, tell us how you feel about this top 7.
I think it was a well-deserving group. All the players played fantastic tournament games and got fantastic results. And I know that Maxim played a hell of a game. I can be a little intense sometimes, both with my moves and with my negotiations. And Maxim Popov got the full Hackenbracht experience on Sunday. Everything from lecturing to to verbal seduction. I tried everything on him, but
And how'd that work out, Bill?
he was uncrackable. And then when I found out afterwards that he was only 17, oh my Lord, he and Farron are going to be the future of this hobby, man.
Yeah.
They're that good starting off. I can't imagine how they'll be after, 10, 15 years of this.
So, Bill, how do you think Maxim would describe you coming out of this? So you described him as uncrackable. How do you think he would describe negotiating with you?
I learned a long time ago, you don't want to hear what other people think about you. I don't know. I tried everything with him, short of things that would violate the code of conduct, and I just couldn't crack him. He had a plan, and he knew what he wanted to do and what he wanted to accomplish. I think he would call me some synonym of formidable. I don't know if it would be in the most complimentary of terms, but I certainly gave him my best, and he handled it with grace and with good moves.
You also gave him a lot of time in Western Med and North Africa, if memory serves. But let's move on to the Best Country Awards. Yes. In Austria is the aforementioned Maxim Popov, Best Country Specialist. I know he's won Best Russia a couple times, and I'm pretty sure he was Best England at or France, I can't remember which, at Carnage. So Maxim is collecting these Best Country Awards. In England, Farron Jane with the only solo of the tournament. In France, Claes de Graaf, European specialist, and he only played in a couple rounds, I think, or maybe 3 rounds. He was also an organizer, is that right?
No, he was not. But I think he'll be he's an organizer of face-to-face diplomacy. He organized the European Diplomacy Championships in Amsterdam last year, and came in. I can't remember, but I remember he was on the top board with me and Hunter Catcher.
Got it. So
Hunter won the thing because that's what he does when he plays diplomacy.
I hope that didn't hurt too much coming out. Germany was won by Nicolas Sahuguet, former world champ. Italy is Christophe Bourget, another fellow that you and I played with in Marseille in 2019. In Russia was a tie between Chicago's own Christian Klein and J.J. Raymond, another young player who's making a lot of noise on the circuit. And there was no tiebreaker for best country, so they're going to share it. And in Turkey is tournament champion Morgante Pell.
Yeah, I have a local artist making best country award. So I told her, hey, gotta make 2 purple ones.
Nice. Can you tell us a bit about the awards, what they're going to look like?
So the Best Country Awards will be essentially an artistic kind of acrylic disc with a custom nameplate on them. So it'll have the awards will have their name on them. That's one of the advantages of not having an in-person awards ceremony is I can make custom awards for people. Some additional awards that will be in the physical variety is we asked participants to self-identify if they did not physically own a copy of the game. And so we will be sending physical copies of the Board Game Diplomacy to our 4 highest finishers who don't own a copy. Those are Farron Jane, J.J. Raymond, Tom DeGrief, who just missed out on the top board by a tiebreaker, as well as Yarmar Solja in Georgetown, Ontario.
Oh, fantastic. And let's not wait any longer to find out the next set of awards. These are regional champions. Explain these to us.
Yes. So this was the brainchild of Lei Sarlanian, a French and Vietnamese player. Well, he's French and he lives in Vietnam. His idea to increase participation was to make it more friendly for the European and the Asian Pacific hobbies was to create a regional award where a player's best two scores in rounds that were friendly to that time zone would qualify them for a regional championship. And these are three fantastic players, and I think they're all well earned and well deserved.
Yeah, so Peter McNamara was the best performer in the time zones, the games friendly to Asia Pacific time zone. Klaas de Graaf, I have put Glazer here following whatever sheet I was reading off of. Glazer is his online nom de plume. He was the European champ, and the Americas time zones were bested by Farron Jane. Yes. All right, let's move on to the next one. These are the specialty awards. The Golden Blade was won by Conrad Woodring. What did Conrad do to win that award?
So in his round 4 game as Turkey, he waited patiently. He bid his time. And then when the moment was right, he took all of Jenny Hutton's dots in Russia, and he just kept going and going. And it was surgical, it was precise, and it was a beauty to watch. And Jen Hutton's, she's an experienced diplomacy player, handled it well, but was very frustrated at the time with Conrad. But he pulled off one hell of a stab.
Congrats, Conrad, on winning the Golden Blade. The Player's Choice Award was shared between two players, Tom de Graaf and Alex Lebedev. Apologies, Tom, for not including the space between the DE and the Griff. Can you tell us a bit about how these players won the Player's Choice Awards?
Well, I can tell you right now that Tom will definitely forgive you, because that's just the kind of player he is and how he was recognized by his fellow competitors. Both Tom and Alex had wonderfully positive things said about them by their competitors, who really highlighted how they handled stressful situations, either being caught between two aggressive neighbors or being stabbed repeatedly when it wasn't always in that stabber's best interest to keep things going. Basically just they handled these adverse situations with grace and with calm and kept being fun players to be around. And that's not always easy to do in face-to-face diplomacy. And I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize them for just being great people to play with.
Yeah, thanks, Tom and Alex, because players like you are what make the hobby work. If we all acted how we really wanted to deep down, this game wouldn't last very long. So it's important that people act with decorum and are pleasant.
And they're not just, and these guys aren't patsies. I mean, they're both very highly competitive players in their own rights.
So congrats to Tom de Graaf and Alex Lebedev for winning the Player's Choice Award. Finally, the specialty award for Whoopsie Doodle goes to multiple-time world champ Cyril Savant. How did Cyril win the Whoopsie Doodle Award?
Well, if you can call it winning the award, he was definitely the hands down favorite and crowd nominee. Cyril, who is fantastic. I think he's won World Diplomacy Championships 3 times and has multiple French championships under his belt. And this is a French hobby that in the 90s had like 150 people at their national championship tournaments. He NMR'd like 6 times during the tournament, and it totally blew up his games. And on other boards, he was organizing defenses against solos and doing all sorts of Cyril fantastic, amazing diplomacy things, but he just couldn't get the interface right. I mean, 99, unfortunately for Cyril, 99 other people didn't have a problem with it, but
was he okay with it? Did he accept that it was his fault, or was he frustrated?
He was frustrated, but I think he was frustrated, but he also accepted it was his fault. For some of the rounds he was in, the tournament directors would even pause the game and, hey, like, make sure that the orders that were being submitted by him were what he wanted to be submitted. I think he was just having some issues with the interface that were really beyond that just took it to a whole nother level. And so Cyril's a great player. I'm sure he's more than willing to accept this honor. And hey, And there's plenty of opportunities to familiarize yourself more with the backstabber interface, in the events and kind of, big things coming next.
So before we get to what's coming next, let's hear from Morgante Pell. This was a post-game interview recorded with him shortly after he won the championship for the Virtual World Diplomacy Classic on Sunday. And then we'll come back here. We'll review what's coming next. The 2020 Virtual World Diplomacy Classic champion, Morgante Pell. Morgante, welcome to the stream.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. So first of all, here's the question that all champions get asked and has no good answer. How does it feel?
Feels great, right? I didn't expect that coming into yesterday, especially. I had like a very mediocre score in this tournament, and I had some good games, and then came in by a tie, by the way. I was only on the top board by a tie, and then tie to get the championship. So it feels like by a hair, but exciting.
You seem to like ties.
Still counts.
I don't love them, but, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Hey, a win's a win no matter how it comes about.
Exactly.
So, Morgante, tell us how you won this game. What did you do that got you to the top?
Honestly, just working the relationship with Maxime and just making sure that throughout the board, like every single season, he is who I talk to more than any other time, even including when he stabbed me before then. And we just had that really good relationship that nobody else had with him. That's he got me to me, and I give full credit to him there. And our early, like in 1902, I think we said one of us is topping this board, and who had the strongest position, we basically decided to just continue with that throughout.
So the alliance with him, the Kraken, that didn't develop until 1902, or were you guys talking about that from Spring 01?
We were talking about it from Spring 01, but I think we continued to formalize it as that moved forward. Right. For a while, everyone else thought there was an error, right? So they kept it secret for like a year or two.
Yeah, we heard a little bit about the error. Was that a concern for you?
It was a bit of a concern, right? I was, if it was a true error, I'd obviously be dead, right? Thankfully, it turns out that it was actually an AR, and an AR where Austria got crushed, and we managed to turn the IT and make that work around.
So you supported Italy into Serbia in spring of 1902, and even though your army in Bulgaria got piffed, this was your low moment. This was your low point. Were you actually still feeling confident at this moment because you knew that Italy was on your side, or were you worried?
I was for sure worried, right? People can say nice things and can say, yeah, I'm on your side, but his position looks great here, right? Go for the air. Keep Austria as a junior partner and just take out Turkey, who's always an issue for Italy, let's be honest, right? If I'm behind him there. So if he was not with me, I would have been in a terrible shape here, down to 3 centers and nothing to prevent his fleets from coming in behind, if that's what he chose to do.
Was this the most nervous moment for you, or does that come later in the
The most nervous moment was the last turn. It was by a hair, as we all saw.
All right, we'll get to that. So this was a key moment in 1902 for you. You get Bulgaria back, and it sounds like you felt confident about this too. You thought Italy was going to be on your side.
Yeah, I actually thought so much that Italy was going to be on my side that I was worried that I thought Russia would turn here, right? You notice actually Italy gave me support con de ball, which would have worked. I could have taken it and kept Black Sea there, but decided to instead try to patch things up with Russia, right? But try to say, turn around, go face this whole mess in the east, disband these 2 ridiculous fleets you have down here, and we can work together, right? So I vacated Black intentionally there.
Is it the very next year where you managed to get rid of both of those fleets?
It is not the way I'd hoped. It was
I had a lot of fun looking at that turn.
Yeah. She had a disband that she was supposed to, like in this 1902 winter, she was supposed to disband Black. She decided not to. This is one of the many, I think you alluded to the fact that Tanya and I had a very rough relationship, not Tanya, Farron, in this game, right? And that was one of the many ones. This was supposed to be Black Sea as disbanding, not Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So that must have been a sort of crestfalling moment when you saw the adjudication come through.
Yeah, it was disappointing, but at the end of the day, I knew that as long as I still had Italy on my side, this position was recoverable. And I think really just ended up being worse for Russia, right? It means her play in the north is much weaker, and I'm still going to get that disband whether she agrees to it or not. Right? I'm going to force it.
So, and you also must have been pretty happy to see those French fleets drop down into the Mediterranean.
I was, don't give Maxim any ideas that he can, come fight me, right? So that was certainly good. And, Bill Hackenbracht is a incredibly formidable player. So I think it's very good to say, here's this shiny object over here that you have to go fight him. Give me a little bit of help against the AR that's still trying to survive, but don't try to get any ideas around Smyrna, for example.
All right, so Morgante, let's push forward here. The IT is successful for quite a while in this game. You guys take over the Balkans. You finally give Matthew the freedom to go enjoy his anniversary with his spouse, and then all of a sudden, fall 1905, the knife turns and is pointed at you. Maxim drops into the Eastern Med and supports Russia into Romania. Tell us about your reaction to this turn.
Obviously disappointing. And I'll say this was a masterstroke by Bill here, right? Obviously he got Maxim to turn on me, but also he was talking to me that, you really need a fleet here just to give him some pressure so I can go deal with, at this point, Germany looked like a dominant player on the board. So if you build a fleet and put some pressure on Maxim, then I'll go deal with Germany. So I have made the mistake of expressing the desire to potentially build a fleet to Maxim and say, if I do that, maybe Bill will go deal with Germany. And that, of course, triggered this reaction. So I should have just stuck with what was working and said, Maxim, they're saying I should do this. I'm definitely not going to do it, but keep that in mind. And I didn't even plan to do it, but even the mention of it was clearly enough to spook him and listen to the whispers that Bill had been whispering the entire game.
Yeah, I think I think all diplomacy players who've played for a while have had a moment in a game where they say something, they say their thoughts out loud to their ally, like, "I know I could stab you here, I'm not going to," and and the mere mention of it, the mere fact that you let them know that you're even thinking about it, causes them to turn on you.
Yep. We've all been there. Oh, that was my out loud voice.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so but tell me about how you turn this around.
Honestly, I was like, look, you can do this, but Bill is going to take every center that you take from me, take from behind, and he's going to do it aggressively, and I will fight you for every single center and make sure that everyone besides you gets the gains as much as possible. Or you can turn around and we can put this right back on track. We worked together for literally every other season besides this single season of the game. And we just turned that relationship around. I think he saw, and I think it's correct that if he had continues to attack, I don't think he's the one who benefits. I think Bill is the one who ends up benefiting in the long run.
Did you, were you confident that he agreed with you at that point, or were you holding your breath here for this adjudication?
Certainly holding my breath a little bit. I think we had a good rapport, but you see, I am pulling things to get into, I think, a defensive crouch here. And it's a very defensive position of saying that you are not going to get into Smyrna. You're not going to get anything. You continue this, your gains will be Greece, and that's it. And I will start disbanding everything in the north. So it was definitely like, if he changed his tune here, I think I was going to defensive position, but I was hopeful. Let's say that.
I mean, this is a huge moment for you diplomatically. This was, if you don't succeed here, your path to the board top is very narrow.
Okay.
And
yes,
yeah,
probably non-existent.
This was an impressive turn right here. Yeah.
One last note about this turn. Bill turning around here, convoying to Tuscany and trying to drop back into the Western Med. Did you have intel on that?
Certainly, I was telling Italy that was going to happen. Bill, I think, mentioned his plans to do something along those lines. And I think it was also kind of obvious, right? It's like, yeah, Bill tricked me here, and he's going to push things again. And I think Maxim saw that to his credit.
All right, then from here, it feels like relatively smooth sailing. There is this moment, spring 1907. I don't know if you heard, we were just talking about what options Maxime had at this point. And Doug's suggestion was that here, look at this without the orders on, that Maxime still had a shot if he collaborates with Russia against you. And Maxime obviously chose not to do that. Was that something you were actively worried about?
It was definitely a worry, right? They had some collaboration earlier on. I think but the way I said that, if you decide to do this, Russia gets all of the dots if you do. And that's what I'll make sure of. I just kept saying that message, pretty much every scene I was like, they get the dots if you decide to go with this. And Bill's still there. Like Bill, especially because the disband wasn't through yet. Bill looked like he was definitely still there.
All right. Well, I mean, from this point on, it's actually the result is not 100% clear, but you are definitely going to be either the winner or in second place. And in fact, at this point, I kind of assume you're going to win. And then all of a sudden, Nicola, jumps up and starts collecting dots. So talk us through these last periods all the way up until the final turn. How were you counting dots? What were your conversations with Maxime like about what was going to happen? You knew you needed his dots, I assume, at this point in order to top the board, or did you? You tell me.
I think it became clear that the West was going to throw everything to England they could, and that was not my intention to take it. I was wanted to take the minimum possible for him to have a preserved score, right? And we were trying to figure it out every single time. And frankly, like the English rise to the top. We saw that chart. That came a little bit by surprise, of course. And I didn't have quite the momentum to push forward far enough into the sprint of the board because I had been coasting for a little bit, thinking like, yeah, I've got this locked up. The West is a mess and I'm good. And then they were like, nope, we're going to try to elect a winner. And then it ended up being a race to figure out what's the exact dots that I need while still giving Maxim the result that he needed as well.
Okay, I hopped over one little thing that we all want to ask you about. Supporting Bohemia into Galicia. How did that come about?
That was really Peter gave it just like, is there anything you want Bohemia to do? I was like, yeah, I'd love to put you into Galicia. And I think you have play on Warsaw if you do. And obviously the implication being that I can then take Moscow. And of course, that's exactly what happened in the fall. So it ended up being, I think, a good move for both of us, right? And it's win-win situation.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It confused me a lot at first, and then this happened, and it was like, oh, no, wait, that makes sense.
Yeah, we were definitely befuddled at first, but we were like, oh, that was okay. That was a good move. Yeah, we liked it. Definitely. So, Morgante, for the next time you're on a top board and you're leading at the end, are you going to take your foot off the gas?
Definitely not. Even if your nearest competitor looks way behind you, people can start doing things you did not expect.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that moment, one of those moments is here. Instead of taking Italian dots directly here, you sidestep them and leave yourself the chance to take them in the following year. Is this was all because you wanted to try to preserve Maxime's place?
Yep. I mean, he calculated exactly that. I think to keep his, fifth or sixth position in the tournament overall, he needed 3 dots at the end. And our agreement was like, it's going to only take exactly what I needed to top the board.
As it turns out, that is precisely what you did. You ended up tied, thanks to not taking Vienna here, right? Like you could have. That is something that you could have done. Although you did, we didn't talk about this. You did support yourself into Venice. Interestingly enough, was that just to make sure that he didn't bounce you out of Rome? Exactly.
If he bounces me there, then he loses Venice. It's not perfect, but it was just a little bit of a check.
So you you must have been confident at this point that you would at least tie Nicola, unless there was nothing else. Actually, there was nothing that with that support order, there was nothing that that Maxim could have done. But you said you were still nervous.
Well, he could have cut Trieste. Is what I realized only after I looked at it. Right. Okay. So he could have bounced and then cut Trieste. I don't get it. So that was a bit of nerve if he just had a last minute, like, why should I give it to this person who's dotting me here? Thankfully, didn't happen.
You did it. Congratulations. Do Doug and Siobhan, do you have anything that you want to ask Morgante?
I mean, I don't have anything to ask. I just want to say this was a fascinating game to watch. Stunning play all around, especially by you, and I think this is the right result.
Yeah, you played a really strong game. I don't know. Maybe you'll watch the stream, maybe you won't. But we talked a lot about your patience and really praised your play of Turkey, because you really did a strong job of holding back, waiting your time, make sure that the battle has gone somewhere else, and I'm going to slowly do my growth. So I thought that was a really well played game, well earned win. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was my play going in, and it worked.
Yeah, we heard you on your pregame interview say that exact plan, and you executed it, and you won. And that is awesome. Congratulations. Morgante, you have officially qualified for the DBN Invitational to take place in February. We will be in touch to talk about scheduling preferences. Because this is the biggest tournament of the year, it will also give you the maximum possible points for your DBNI ranking, which will matter. People who are higher up will get preference when it comes to scheduling slots. So look forward to our audience. Look forward to the next issue of Countdown, which we'll put together as soon as we can. Brian Preble and Zach Moore will get on that as soon as they catch up on their sleep. Brian, because he was part of this broadcast team, and Zach, because he was up all night playing on Friday morning and Saturday morning as well. Mm-hmm. But congratulations for qualifying, and look forward to seeing how high up you go. I think you were already pretty high up, so maybe this will take you all the way to number one and displace our next guest, tournament organizer Bill Hackenbracht. Congratulations, Morgante.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon, and we'll be in touch. All right, welcome back, Bill. I hope it didn't hurt too much to hear the details about how you didn't win. But life goes on. We must lick our wounds and find out what's coming next. And here is what's coming next. In December, coming up this Sunday, we have the DBNI Countdown Show, in which Brian Preble and Zach Moore will break down the current DBNI standings and see what people need to do to qualify for the Invitational, which is coming up in February. Just 2 more events. The VDL Championship game, which will happen on January 16th, and then the Cascadia Open, which will be open to everyone. The VDL Championship game is only open to those who qualified. But the Cascadia Open is everyone's last chance to qualify for the Invitational. The winner of that should get an automatic qualification. Also in January is the next episode of Deadline News. And then in February, we have that Invitational, which is going to take place on 3 weekends, February 6th, 13th, and then the top board will take place on the 20th. Bill, you are already an automatic invite for the Invitational. We're looking forward to seeing you play. I hope you're looking forward to joining in the action.
Can't wait.
Bill, you have some plans for the VWDC Discord server, I believe. Would you like to tell us about them?
That's correct, Brandon. We'll be looking to rebrand the VWDC server as the Virtual World Diplomacy Community. And provide a non-competitive space for the formation and hosting of virtual face-to-face play, like a big house game format for players all over the world. And we see this kind of as a gap in the big picture of face-to-face hobbies, because we're not able to meet face-to-face. So there isn't like a bar game or meeting up at a board game shop or things like that. And with us being in a global internet environment, there's just no reason to bound this kind of thing by geography. So we'll be doing some concentrated reach outs to the different diplomacy communities to make sure people know about this opportunity, and then leverage it as an opportunity to not only host some games, introduce newer players to the virtual face-to-face environment, but also provide it as a gateway to some of the more local face-to-face organizations, like the Diplomacy Association of Australia and New Zealand and the North American Diplomacy Federation. Because ultimately what we want to see happen is, once coronavirus ends, people are getting together, meeting up, and lying to each other over a great game of diplomacy.
And you want this to be focused on virtual and focused on more casual less formal environment. So unlike NADF, which has a sort of in-person local focus, and VDL, which is a very highly competitive league, very highly structured. Is that right?
That's correct. It just, unfortunately, this just doesn't exist right now, and we want to be able to provide it to the hobby.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing how that goes. I want to thank you for all of your efforts in organizing in the diplomacy space. You helped put together a tournament that did not exist before. This was brand new, and it was a smashing success. And I hope you are able to do this thing where you pat yourself on the back. It's probably something you've never done before. So maybe if you can call up David Hood and get some instruction about how to do that.
Humble brag, right?
So I think that does it for the wrap-up show, Bill. And thanks again. Congratulations on making the top board and on running a successful tournament, and also on soon to be becoming a father.
Yes. Probably the most important thing I've done this year.
Probably.
No, I'm sorry. Definitely.
All right. Well, your partner's probably not going to be watching this, so you're not in too much trouble. All right, man. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Brandon.